مساء الخير جميعا، سهلا فيكم اليوم مع العرب أمريكان in أورلاندو. أنا اسمي نور المصري، وكيلة عقارات في شركة لاروزا ريالتي. أول شيء بحب أتشكر عرب أمريكان ACC نعطينا الفرصة نشرح تفاصيل بيع وشراء الريال استيت. بحب أعرف الأخت رنا. تفضلي رنا.
السلام عليكم جميعا. أنا اسمي رنا صبرا. بيقولوا لي رينا، so إذا شفتوا اسمي RAY spelled like RAYNA. It's my, all Americans they call me Reina, so that's fine, it's still me. أنا mortgage loan officer. بشتغل مع Centennial Bank. Basically my job loan processing. I'm a mortgage loan developer too, so I'm involved in the community. I do a lot of classes, educational classes about home buying. I do understand your credit report and score. I do those classes a lot in the community. So I'll go to the library, communities, على condominiums وبعمل classes هنا. So yeah.
وسيم.
هلا السلام عليكم. أنا اسمي وسيم Saidi. I'm a local realtor here with La Rosa Realty Premier in Waterford Lakes. Been in real estate for almost 9 years هلا. I graduated من UCF with interdisciplinary studies degree ودغري بعد بلشت real estate I'm still here alhamdulillah. I've worked with all types of clients, investors, first-time home buyers, sellers, out-of-state clients. I mean, it varies a lot. I was born and raised here in Orlando, Florida, so I know I'm with all the different parts that Florida has to offer. I extend further than just Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Daytona, wherever you need. Inshallah, we can take care of you.
Yeah, inshallah. Okay, so هلا now we're going to start about our mortgage process اللي هو كيفية ناخذ القرض من البنك. ورنا, can you explain how is the process starts إذا عندنا buyer willing to buy a house, if they're renting now and they're willing to buy one, or if we have a seller obtaining a second home, كيف البروسيس بتبلش؟
Of course, yeah. طبعا. So first stop زي ما أنا دايما بحكي للناس للborrowers للcustomers, أول stop بتعملوه لما بدك تشتري بيت the lending, the finances, and buying a house is not like fast process. فإذا أنت حابب بتفكر إنك تشتري بيت هلا ولا in the future, I highly recommend إنك تبدأ هلا. Start the process now. So the first stop will be the lending process. لأنه إذا بدك تروح تحكي مع وسيم ولا نور هلا, and like for example, if you will call them right now and asking to ask them about properties, they're gonna say, okay, have you been pre-qualified? Have you been spoken with the lender? So they cannot help you. ما بيقدروا يساعدوك إلا إذا أنت حكيت مع lender. And the reason why, because لأنه أنت لما بتتصل على a realtor first, هم ما بيعرفوا على إيش يدوروا with the price range. They don't know exactly what you qualify for. So that's why the lending, the financing stop is the first, and it's very important because that will determine إذا أنت qualify, can we proceed, move forward ولا لا. So first thing, لما الكاستمر بيحكي معي أو بيجي, we can meet in person at the branch, or we can, do a phone call. I will ask him some questions. بسأله عن income. أول شيء income. Do you have 2 years of employment history? طبعا, I'm not sure. Do we have time? Yeah. So first thing, 2 years of income, of employment history. He can be W2 or 1099 self-employed. We have retirees عندهم social security income that we can accept that pension. بوصلهم monthly pension. برضه ممكن we can consider that income. Even child support, if you receive child support راح يضلوا 3 سنين أو أكثر, ممكن كمان we can consider it. With child support, since I mentioned child support, اللي عنده debt بيدفع child support, هذا بيعتبر من liabilities, من الدات, يعني ضدك ممكن يكون, ممكن يخرب عليك debt to income ratio, وأنا هلا راح أشرح لكم إياه. So after I ask them, بسأله عن الانكم, بسألهم عن كيف الفايكو سكور. الفايكو اللي هو credit score, and FICO stands for Fair Isaac Corp. So في عنا 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Lenders usually بيستعملوا الرقم اللي في النص. So إذا في عندك 800 السكورز تبعك و 700 600, we're gonna go by the middle one. Okay. Then after we after I ask you all this question, most of the people will ما عندهم accurate information عن الفايكو سكور تبعتهم. في منهم عندهم access على للcredit report من البنك تبعهم بعطيهم access, and usually they give them access to just one creditor. They do not have access للثلاثة, but that's okay. So if you're good, like if you answer all my questions, it's not like you just started working and you're not qualified. I know that's not gonna go through. I'm gonna create a plan for the customer, and I will tell you, okay, this is what you need to do. I'm gonna follow up with you. I'll reach out to your realtor and I will update them. Now, if you're ready, everything is fine, I will send you the mortgage application. Basically, you just download the app and complete the application. You have to include personal information, and I highly recommend to include your full name exactly that you have it on your ID. So if you have a planning to change your name due to divorce, marriage, anything, fix it before you start, because we need all this, we're starting mortgage application, so everything has to be accurate. And we will request for authorization to pull your credit. Okay. So after we finish, I pull your credits, I will ask about the income and everything. I want to stop here for a second and mention, the more information you give us, the more accurate information I will provide you with. Because this process, we call it pre-qualification. I'm going to stop here for a second again and mention, you hear people say pre-approval. But there's a difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. Yes, are two different things. هدول مش زي بعض. كتير بتسمع من الناس pre-approval. I'm sure وسيم ونور سمعتوا الناس بيقولوا I was pre-approved. فإحنا لما حدا بيحكي لنا I'm pre-approved, I'm like, are you pre-approved? Do you have a pre-approval? So هم مختلفين تماما. شيئين مختلفين تماما. Pre-qualification معناته أنت عبيت الابليكيشن، اعطينا المعلومات، عبيت بالمعلومات اللي بدك اياها. يعني هلا ممكن تقول انه انا ام سيلف امبلويد بعمل $10,000 a month على سبيل المثال، وكمان الابلكيشن وانا بعمل لك بري كواليفيكيشن، بطلع لك انه اوكي بيس النمبرز، بيس على النمبرز اللي انت اعطيتني اياها، وانت يور بري كواليفاي للبيرتشيز برايس اللي انت حطيته. بس انا ما عندي اني بروف، ما عندي باي ستوكس، ما عندي تاكسز، ما عندي ولا شيء. فكتير مهم جدا. طبعا احنا لما بتكون نتقدم في الابلكيشن، قانونيا لما بنبعث لك LE or loan estimate، بقدر انا اسالك عن tax returns the last 2 months. I'm sorry, the last 2 years tax returns, last 2 years W2s, last 2 months pay stubs, and the last 2 months bank statement. So the more accurate information you provide، احنا بقدر اعطي لك okay you pre-qualify for that amount. لأنه you don't want to mispresented. You don't want to give pre-qualification to a realtor that's okay I'm pre-qualified for $400,000 for an example، ولما بحطوا offer على البيت يرجع بعدين لما بشوف التاكس returns تبعينك you're not qualified. So this is very important, very important. So I always educate my customers before they even start the application.
And Rainer, if you don't mind, can I add something?
Of course.
One, just to answer Jeanette's question, Guidance Residential, they have financing to avoid riba if you're interested in that. Number two, I think what happens with people, they are afraid to ask for the loan because they don't want their credit to be pulled. Can you give some info or some notes that I've seen people only give some information and they don't go the whole way, or they give the inaccurate information that they think is accurate. Right. Can you let people know what the factor is when you are applying them and you are pulling their credit? Does it do much damage to their score, or how is that?
This is very, very important and good question. I'm so glad that you asked this question. So here's the thing. That Fair Isaac Corp, the FICO, or the whole system was created for the lenders to measure the performance of the borrowers, the customers. For example, think about it this way. And I'm going to simplify it للناس علشان يفهموا علي. لو واحد يجي عندك and he asked for to borrow money from you. فايش أول إشي بخطر على بالنا؟ Can I trust that person? Can he pay me back? So the lenders ما بيعرفون, they don't know anything about us. So they created the whole system for that. Now, buying a house is the largest investment we do in our life. We're talking about at least $250,000. That's a lot of money. So that lenders, to know if they can trust you, if they can lend you, if there's any red flags or no, they have to pull credit. And we call it hard pull, and that's okay. It's okay. Like it's not a big deal. The customer has the right to shop for 30 days. For an example, if you let's say today is March 1st, you came to me and you want to shop and see what rates I can price it. And of course, the rates, that information I'm going to give you, it's all estimate, because we didn't lock the rates, we didn't have anything. So you shop with me, then tomorrow you can call another lender, and you have 30 days to shop, and will not affect your credit. It will be considered as a one pull, and it will be hard pull, and that's okay to be a hard pull. It's okay because you're buying as I said, like the largest investments in your life. So it's not gonna hurt their credit. What's gonna hurt their credits if they go to retail store, for an example, let's use Macy's. They'll offer them $20 off or whatever discount they have, and they ask them to apply for the credit card. Then they will pull the credit there, and it will hurt their FICO score so bad. They will go buy a car. They'll go they apply for other retail stores. So that's what hurt your score. It's not, does it really worth it or no? And in my class, as I mentioned earlier, I do the understand your credit report and score class, and I go over that. So if you're interested, reach out to the community, and we can schedule that. And I will teach you what things to avoid, what things you can do to prepare for buying a house. So hard pull credit for mortgage, it will not affect your credit in really a bad way, and you have 30 days to shop. Do not let anyone manipulate you and tell you, no, that's it, you have 2 weeks, because I hear stories from people. No, this is your right to shop around and see if this loan is good for you, if this product is better maybe for you. Some customers, they come to me and feel like, we got like a cheaper loan estimate from different lender, but we're happy to work with you. I wanna do the loan with you. So sometimes it's about the customer service. It's not all about the rates. There are a lot of things involved in the loan. And education is very important. I want to mention to everyone, it's very important. Education, knowledge is power. And you have to learn. Buying a house is not like buying something you can return tomorrow, something simple. Buying a house, it's a long process. And you're going to hear a lot of lenders, they will say, you know what, I can close on a loan for 2 weeks. This is large loan. I don't want to go with lender that's going to close for 2 weeks. I want them to do their job and do a good job. So I won't have someone knocking on my door after I finish to ask me for anything, to tell me, okay, no, that the process was wrong. You have to pay this much. Or no, I'm sorry, this house belongs to us because the title company failed to search the house, the history of the house. So this is something very, very important to the customers or the borrowers to learn, or the buyers. كتير مهم جدا يتعلم. As I said, knowledge is power. So I hope I answer your question. So that's okay to pull credit عشان تشتري بيت. That's okay.
And just so you buyers know, it's extremely important to understand your full financial situation when you're beginning this process. You don't want to look for houses and be lost in the woods. You want to understand, I can put this much down. This is how much I need. These are my monthly expenses. The more you have that understood, the easier the buying process is going to be for you. And you can really know where your home budget is, how much money you need to have saved. Let's say if it's not the right time to buy now, you can plan for the next 6 months. But you can't start that planning unless you speak to the lender and submit your documents and potentially pull. So just always be aware of that.
You're absolutely right. And something very important I want to mention. People, they want to buy houses and they do not have any savings. And I'm going to mention down payment system programs. If that's okay, if we're not jumping, I hope if no one has a question, it's okay.
No, go ahead.
So I have a lot of buyers or borrowers. We call them borrowers. The realtors call them buyers. So they come to me and they have like a couple of $1,000s in their bank account and they want to buy a house, asking about the down payment system program. There are down payment system programs available out there, but you still have to cover the rest of the closing costs. And not everyone is qualified for those programs. Maybe you're not making enough money to cover the rest. Maybe, like for an example, the programs are made for people that in need. For that borrower or the buyer to qualify, his income or her income has to be at a certain range. Now, we have a dilemma with some borrowers that they don't make money. They meet the program guidelines, but for purchase the price is very low, like for $200,000 for an example. Like ما في بيوت هلا في Central Florida, I'm not sure إذا في بيوت for 200, but that's the problem that we face. So the down payment system program is not for anyone. It's limited, and on top of that, of course, you have to meet the guidelines of the program. On top of this, there's nothing free. We have different type of programs. في عنا state وفي counties. Each county وفي sometimes Orange and Osceola, they agree to be in third position. Means لما بتاخذ المورجج تبع البيت بيكون على الأولين على البيت. Second one الداون payment system من الستيت. الثالث الكاوني. So الكاوني لازم توافق إنه هي تكون على اللين تبعها أو اللون رقم 3 الثالث. So Orange and Osceola, they agree on that. The problem is not everyone qualifies for those down payment system programs, and they have a lot of restrictions. It's not something easy, and the lender has to apply, and they're very specific. And as I mentioned earlier, there's nothing free. Those programs comes with fees, and yes, you have to pay it back. When you pay it back, when you move out, sell the house, refinance the house, because most of the buyers now, as you know, they're going to refinance. The rates are still high; they're not low. So this is my advice to everyone. If you want to buy now, it's never too early to buy. Buy now, and you can finance later on. So if you're planning to use down payment system program, that's okay. But keep in mind, you need to save some money, or if you have equity, you can pay them back. And yes, programs comes with fees. And when you pay it back, you have to pay the full amount back. So they won't deduct their fees. You still have to pay the whole thing.
Right. So there is nothing technically for free. So even if they offer you an assistant, they will get it either way.
Yes.
So you just need to be careful. Just if you have any questions, just get with the right lender, with the right agent, and they will direct you in the right way. And please do not get any advice from anyone that you might think, because I do get mixed answers from, like, if I tell a client something, he will come back and say, well, my neighbor told me this and my friend told me this. So please, we're licensed. We got trained, to do these kind of jobs for the buyer and for the seller. Okay, so Wasim, now if we have a buyer right now and they want to buy a house, what is the first question you want to ask them? Like, what is the questions? Like, okay, we have a buyer right now. How can we sit down with the buyer and ask them questions so we can see what their needs and wants?
Well, first, it's going to also kind of come back to Raina. Have they gotten pre-approved? Do they understand their initial financial situation? Do they know what budget they want to be in? Because if you're starting this process, there's going to be some upfront costs that you have to pay pretty much during the closing process and at closing. The biggest two ones that are going to come up are going to be your down payment. Now, there are some loans that are coming out now that are 0% down payment. But again, you have to qualify and you have to speak to your lender to see if you meet the prerequisites. But on average, it's between 3 to 10% down. And that's just the down payment for the loan. Followed up with that is you're going to have your closing costs. Closing cost is essentially a mixture of everything that goes down in the closing process, where they're transferring state taxes, property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA, doc stamps. I mean, there's a huge list that's incorporated on it. And sometimes lender fees, title policy. Sometimes these reflect sometimes 2 to 3.5% of the purchase price that you have to pay just on lending fees and the transfer of the home. In addition with that, when you're under contract, you have the inspection fee. Depending on the size of your home, that could cost anywhere between $250 to $700. And that $700 is maybe like a 5,000 square foot home. But with that, do you want to do a home mitigation? I mean,
When
wind wind mitigation, or
4 point.
you also want to do a 4 point. Those are, when you combo them together, sometimes there's a bundle that's an extra $150. And that's important because maybe your insurer for your homeowner's insurance, they need those two type of inspections to either get you to that DTI amount, the debt to income ratio, or to make sure that the home qualifies, that there's not going to be any potential damage, so you can have the best home insurance rate possible.
Right.
In addition with that, you want to think of your monthly payment. What is my monthly payment? People don't understand the breakdown sometimes. The breakdown of your monthly payment is going to be your mortgage. That's the bulk of it. Then there's a few things that come out of it that become your total mortgage payment. So you have your mortgage payment, you're going to have your HOA, depending where you're living at. There's probably a homeowners association. Your home has property tax. Every property in Florida, everywhere in the United States has property taxes you have to pay on. That's part of your monthly payment. In addition to that, you have homeowners insurance to cover the property. Depending on the home, can be anywhere between $75 to $200, or really depending the age of the roof, the water heater, electrical. Again, that is another potential cost or something you need to take in consideration. Homeowners insurance, property taxes, HOA fees, and depending what you decided on purchasing on a home, whether you wanted to get something move-in ready or you wanted to get a little bit of a project home, a fixer-upper, where you're going to have to incorporate those costs, whether you're going to do the kitchen, the bathroom, the floors. Do you have reserve for those? So there's a lot of things that come up when you're beginning to even think about purchasing a home. It sounds overwhelming, but as long as you just make a list and you allocate, talk to your accountant, talk to your lender, your realtor. I mean, we're here to set you up. The more you talk to us, the more we can advise and tell you, hey, you know what, you're good, or you need to save here, or you need to wait. That's our job. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up of, we want a sale. I mean, yeah, of course, that's our business, but we're more of a people business. We want to make sure that you are perfectly set. You're not going to have any financial struggles. So that's what you need to know for that.
Yeah, I want to mention, I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
Yes, and also one more thing. I always tell the buyers before you buy a house, just be careful with your purchases. يعني ما تشتروا مشتريات كتير كبيرة.
صحيح.
تنزلوا سيارة. تروحوا shopping and big purchases. So ما تعملوا يعني تكوموا كتير على الديون عليكم بالكريدت لأنه that will affect your score and your debt. Also, it will affect the loan. So don't do, if you're planning to buy a house, just wait until you close. Once you close, you can buy whatever you want. You can open all the credit cards. Just wait. Do not do any big purchases. Go ahead, Rana.
Exactly. So I want to mention one thing about the debt, but let me mention this before I forget. The closing costs. So closing costs, I will say usually around 4%. Of the purchase price. So think about 4%. Always keep in mind 4%, and this the cost of transferring the ownership of the seller to the buyer. Now, in addition to what was seen listed, I just want to mention that the appraisal. If it's a jumbo loan, of course, we have different type of loans. It's going to have 2 appraisals. So the appraisal will be included in the inspection. Now, the lender will not require you to do the inspection report, but we highly recommend it. And the realtors usually they will help you with it, but we highly recommend it. Why? Because some people think, and I'm going to mention this so quick, the appraisal and the inspection are the same. No, the appraisal they appraise the value. قديش البيت هذا بكلف، قديش بسوى يعني في هلا في الماركت. الانسبكشن they inspect the property from اذا كل الشغلات شغاله البلومينج they check everything. So اذا في مشكله في البيت you can negotiate, you can go back to the realtor and they will help you to negotiate, or they can fix it for you. So this is very, very important, but it will be, as I mentioned, will be part of the closing. And I'm going to go back to Noura's point. You mentioned the debt. So if you want to buy a house, please, I do not recommend you to go buy a car now. If you want to buy a car, you want to buy furniture, if you want to buy something cash, that's fine. But there's something after we pull credit, we measure the debt to income ratio. So the debt to income ratio, we want to keep it as low as possible. How do we keep the debt to income ratio low? We want a good income and a low liability or debt. So if you have car loan for $700 and you have, and of course we're going to use whatever showing on the credit report. If you co-signing your kids, and I'm going to mention the co-signing part because it's very important. If you have a furniture, you just bought a furniture. Some people during the process, they start buying stuff. This is very important. We do hard pull in the beginning of the process. Now, before closing, we're going to do soft pull to be sure that the customer ما شرى شيء ولا في any changes في credit report. So this is very important. So during the process, and I always educate my customers, during the process, please pause your activities. Do not buy anything. Do not do anything during this process. So إذا بدكم تشتروا بيت, I highly recommend that. Now, if you have husband and wife, like couple usually, or they want to buy a house, you can structure. Let's say you needed to buy a car. You have no choice. You have to buy a car. So what you will do, you can, the person with the low income and the low FICO score, low credit score, let's put the debt under his name. So when you buy a house, I will help you with that. And of course, when I meet with you or when we talk, I will help you with this and how we can structure it to make it work for your benefits. So the one with the higher income, it's right, the one who's gonna carry the debt of the house to have no other debts as much as possible. And speaking about debts, I'm gonna mention something very important: student loans. Student loans, one of the largest issue that a lot of people have now. All student loans are active. So when we pull credit, if it shows zero balance, you're not making payments, we're gonna, according to the guidelines, to Fannie and Freddie guidelines, we cannot just go by zero. So we're gonna take a portion from this loan balance. So my personal advice, it's up to you. This is just my advice. If you are not in payments, first, you don't want to be in default with the student loan. This is very important. This is a federal loan, and it's showing on your credit and can affect your FICO score. So do not be in default. Two, if you're not an active, your payment is zero, I highly recommend to make a payment. You can reach out to me and we can talk more in depth about that if you have a student loan. Now, medical bills. This is another thing. That's okay to have medical bills. The lender cannot use it against you we do not add it as a part of that, but do not be in default because it will affect your FICO score. It's very important. You negotiate with your creditor, any type of debt. If you cannot make the payments, I highly recommend pick up the phone and call them. You don't want it because it will be reported on your credit report. And the debt then default, that derogatory accounts, they're like, I always explain it like super glue. If it sticks on the credit, it's so hard to remove it. So you want to have agreements with them. If you cannot make the payments, trust me, lenders or the creditors, they will love to hear from you. Do not ghost them. I know it's hard. All of us, we go through financial hardship. You're not the only one, but do not be in default. Pick up the phone, speak to them, see if we can negotiate something with you. It's very important to maintain a healthy credit report. And I want to mention something very important, and I always mention it to my customers. Your credit report, you know how we go to the doctor every year to do annual checkup? Your credit report is the same thing. You have to check your credit report at least once a year to be sure it's healthy, there's no negative items, and if you have anything negative, you want to dispute it. Even your name, if it's misspelled, if you have addresses that does not belong to you, if maybe, God forbid, you have identity theft issue or something, always check your credit report. You get to do it once a year for free, and it's really worth it. Because if you have any issues and you're ready to buy house or a car or anything, it can really hold you back. It can mess up everything. So
it's actually case by case. Let's say, for every client that we have, we go, technically by case. Every clients have their own, let's say, issues or credit problems that we can help them. Also, we can recommend them to go to boost their credit, and we can maybe they're not ready now, but later down the road they might be approved later. So we can tell them, if you do 1, 2, 3, then maybe hopefully by this month or next month or maybe next year you'll be ready if you follow those guidelines. Go ahead, Wasim.
I was going to actually, you nailed it right on the head. I was going to mention that if anyone that has credit issues, please feel free to reach out to us, because we have resources that work with the credit bureau that could potentially take off anything that's hindering your credit. So any questions you have for that, please let us know, because we can help with low credit to help build credit. Although if you may not be ready now, you would be surprised on what 6 months can do when you really just focus. So
Right.
that's
You're absolutely right.
we talked about the loans and everything, but now I think one of the important things are, how do you find a house? So I mean, Noor, when you're shopping for a home, what are some things that you advise to your clients that like are some importances, or how do you figure out what your client wants to buy?
Right. So first of all, we have to sit down and talk. I want to meet their goals, their needs, and their want. What do they want? And what do they need? So after when we have a buyer consultation, we can narrow down exactly what they're looking for as far as the square footage of the house. Do they want a big house, a smaller house? How many bedrooms, bathrooms? Do they want, a backyard, townhome, condo? So exactly, we're looking exactly what do they really want for the house that they're looking for. After getting the pre-approval letter from the lender, we can see their budget. So I have some clients that are looking for, big house, nice pool, everything, and then oops, sorry, you qualified only for this number. So first, that's why it's very important. We always tell them, get approved first by a lender first, so we can see your budget. And with this budget, I will take that letter, the pre-approval letter from the lender, then we can shop around, that fits your budget.
Okay. And when you're looking at the homes, what are some things that you evaluate? So you pull up to a property with your clients. What are some things that are important to know about the property?
Right. So as I said, after the buyer's consultation, we have to see exactly which area they prefer. Do they prefer to live in, Tampa, Orlando, or different cities? Do they really care about the school rating اللي هو معدل المدارس؟ في كتير عوائل بتيجي وأهم إشي عندهم اللي هو معدل المدرسة، إنها تكون عالية ما تكونش واطية. كمان العمل، where they work. They don't want to be that far, بعيدين عن الشغل. بدهم يكونوا كتير قريبين من الشغل، مش بعيدين. بس نشوف البروبرتيز اللي هم بدهم إياه. We can narrow down, we can show them the few houses, 5, 6 houses a day. وبعدين بيحكوا okay, I think that's the right house for us. So when we see the house, okay, perfect, beautiful house, okay, I want this house. So what I do, I normally check the records from the county. I always check to see the age of the roof, the age of the AC, what permits got pulled on this property. I check about the taxes. Is it reasonable? Is it high? Is there any extra taxes? They call it CDD on the property, because I want my buyer to know exactly what they're getting into. So after getting all these information, I call the lender. I was like, hey, lender, do you think my buyer is qualified for this? I understand it fits his budget, but look at the taxes, look at these information. Then we can do the calculation. Then I tell the buyer how much the approximate, their monthly bill and everything. And if it fits their budget and it's doable for them, then we can put it under contract. Before I put it under contract, let's say the house is 500, for example, 500. I don't give an offer at 500. I normally do CMA, which is compatible market analysis. I study the area around it. So I see the recent sale around that house with the same square footage, same features. And I see is it worth that price? I mean, does it really worth 500 this house? So after getting the numbers and like studying those numbers, then I can tell the buyer, okay, I think this is how much we should offer. Maybe we should offer, after looking at those numbers, 490, 480, and maybe 500. Maybe it is worth 500. And then we put an offer. Then I start negotiation with the seller, with the listing agent. And then hopefully we can, meet in the middle or something. And that's it. Then we
Now,
go take the file to the lender. And when we go under contract, then the lender will start the process, the lending process, the title. So we all be involved. And then we can start also inspection. If we go under contract, we have due diligence. Due diligence تتراوح بين 7 أيام ل 10 أيام. It depends, what we put on the contract. Those due diligence, we have to inspect the house. We have to have inspection. And after the inspection, we see the report, and then we decide: do you want to move forward or not? Do we see any problems with this house? Is there any leak? Is there any, the AC does not work, and so we might see some defects in the house. And if the seller is willing to fix, fine. Some buyers, they get scared. They just want to say nope, just cancel the contract. So it's a process. It's not hard. As long as you're with the right agent, you'll be fine.
Right.
Go ahead.
Now, I want to mention something else. So when we issue pre-qualification and we send it to the realtor, as you mentioned, Noor, you will communicate with the lender before submitting a contract. And I do like my part of research. I will check the HOA to be sure we have an accurate information, because the debt to income ratio will include the HOA. So it's very important. And besides that, I will usually reach out to the borrower or to the buyer, and I will discuss with them, hey, this property has this much of HOA. Are you okay with that to pay $400, for an example, a month or something? So some people, they're okay with that. Some people, they do not. They prefer something else. They don't want to pay that much of HOA or taxes. Now, when we pull the tax credit, let's say you want to buy now, we're in February, so we're going to use the current tax bill that it's showing. So if this investment property, the tax is going to be very high, and you might not be qualified because the taxes are very high. So this is something very important to consider. If the qualification, how we qualify the customer. So it's be part of it. Now, something else, a new construction, of course, that's going to be different. It's going to be estimated. Some people, for the new construction, it's completely different. Something else, when we when you reach out, when the realtor reach out to us and we go over the numbers and everything is fine, I'm like, okay, because sometimes we can tell you, okay, you pre-qualify for 400,000, but with the HOA and the taxes, they're not really qualified for 400. So this is very, very important. And sometimes they are qualified, but are you as a buyer comfortable with this mortgage payment? So this is very, very important, because your income, we qualifying you based on the numbers we have, but is that okay with you to pay $3,000, for an example? I'm just going to use a number as a mortgage payment. Don't you want to have extra money for travel, for savings, for anything else, for your bills, for other bills? So this is something very important to the people, to the buyers, to consider. So it's not, oh, I'm fall in love with this house, I want to buy this house, I'm qualified for it. So you want to consider this too. Is it okay with me to pay this much of money? Now, something very, I keep saying important, something is very important again to consider. Now we are in a market that fluctuates a lot, and it's going to change. The rate's a little bit higher, and we're going to talk now about it. So this is temporary. If the mortgage payment's a little bit high, it's going to be temporary. So are you okay with that? So this is something we need to discuss. If you can hold it for 1 year or two until you refinance, but we cannot guarantee anything. It's all, numbers. It's all rumors. Some people, they say, oh, it's going to go down. Some people, they're saying no. So we do not know. So you have to be comfortable with the payment. That's what I want to mention. Then after we done, after we receive, now the realtor going to submit an offer, as Noor mentioned. Now the timing is very important. As soon as the seller signed the offer to become a contract, the lender needs to be informed immediately, because the clock is ticking for us. Now, and we go by the closing date on the contract. So let's say they're giving us just 30 days, which is fine. 30 days, it's okay. But we have some situation that realtors will, because of weekends or holidays, they keep the contract, but the clock is ticking for us. So I work all the time. So I need to work on the file so we can submit it. Now, when we receive the contract, we do some work on my end, then I will submit it to back office to send the customer disclosures or a loan estimate. We call it good faith estimate. Now, here's the thing that's very important to learn about the good faith estimate. You're gonna see numbers, you're gonna see the main thing for the lender. So of course the loan estimate's an estimate. So there's nothing accurate or guaranteed there. We can lock the rates before. It's up to the customer, or we can keep it floating. So we can chop the rates. That time I usually call them and ask them what they want to do. We can float it, submit it. It's up to you. It's up to the customer. Now, this is an estimate. So the numbers can be a little bit higher. And it's okay to be higher because it's a good faith estimate. The closing disclosures, you're going to see the numbers are lower than the good faith estimate, which is good. That's why we call it good faith estimate. It's not the opposite because we don't want it to be the opposite. At the same time, it's good for you. Wouldn't you be happy if your closing costs reduce from 10,000 to 7,000, for example? But you want to be ready for it. So that's okay if you see the numbers a little bit higher. It's okay. So you're going to see two things in the loan estimate, APY and APR. APY is the interest rate. The APR is the annual percentage rate, which is the cost, how much it's costing you this loan, how much this loan is costing you. So that's the difference between two. And of course, as a loan officer, my job is to explain everything to my customer and go over the details and answer all of the questions. It's very important for the customer to understand what's going on. You're signing those disclosures, and you want to be sure that you understanding what you're signing. As soon as you sign the disclosures, we go ahead and order the appraisal. Now, we usually send you a link, you pay for it. Then now the lenders or the loan officers, we're not allowed to communicate with the appraiser. So we have a department that goes to that department, and someone will communicate with them. So if you have any questions or anything, people think that we talk to them directly. We're not allowed to. So he will contact sometimes the realtor, sometimes they prefer the seller for entry, for access to the house. They will go do it. Now, for that, this is a private vendor. This is a third vendor that we work with. So we have no control over, we'll set a certain day for them to bring the report back, but they can be busy, there's something going on. Sometimes they want to schedule an appointment and the seller is not ready, or something happens, or maybe due to weather or anything else. Now, when he goes, he will meet with the seller or the realtor. He will appraise the property and he will prepare the report and send it back to us. As soon as he sends it back to us, the buyer or the borrower, he will receive it on the app. He will see it. Now, this is very, very important again. If the property appraised higher than the purchase price, which is good, perfect, same or higher. If it's lower, lender cannot lend more than the appraised value. So what we do usually, I will go back to the list, the agent, because I go to the buyer's agent, yeah. So I'll tell them, listen, this is the situation, and of course the borrower knows about that. So here's the situation. Now they have the option of negotiate the price. And of course, maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about it, Noor, or
okay, so let's say we have a house, let's say 500, the house. Mm-hmm. The appraisal came 490, the appraisal. So we're short 10,000. So my job as a buyer's agent, I will go to the listing agent. So I will tell her, hey, we have a 490 the house appraised for. This is how much the house worth. Mm-hmm. So we have options, either to drop the price to 490, which is I always push for. My buyer, I will not let my buyer to pay more than the house what it's worth for. If the house is 490, this is how much we're going to pay 490. But they have an option, either to say, no, thank you, I want 500. We can cancel the contract because Mr. Seller wants 500. They don't want to drop the price. Or we can meet in the middle. The seller will go down, let's say 495, and my buyer will pay the 5,000. So there's like an options that we can, but as of right now, to be honest, sellers, they understand, they know how much their house worth. So by them signing the appraisal contingency, they will, it's not definite, but they will either cancel the contract or moving forward or meet in the middle. But nowadays, I mean, if the seller wants to sell their house, they want to sell the house. They don't want to cancel it and relist it again and wait for another 30 days for the process for the loan to close and wait for a new buyer. So we can come in the middle, we can agree on something so we can have, happy seller and happy buyer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. And
And
go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, continue.
No, I'm gonna jump to a different subject, but go ahead if you wanna, chip in, if you wanna put something.
I was just going to say, so pretty much when you're going through this transaction or the home buying process, you're really going to have three main steps into locking in the home, and that is, as Noor mentioned earlier, is negotiations. We're going to negotiate the purchase price by doing comparables, talking to listing agents, seeing motivations, and seeing how we can leverage our knowledge and what we know of the market and of the home to get us the best offer. That's the first negotiation process. Then we have the second negotiation process is when we have our home inspection. If anything comes that's messed up in the home, not working properly, then we can use that as leverage to have the seller either fix it, or we can ask them to credit us some closing costs to either help cost some to cover costs up front that we have for our closing, and then we can get to fix the issues, or we can have those issues fixed immediately. And then lastly, the appraisal. The appraisal, as Rania mentioned and as Noor mentioned, if it's too high, if the appraisal comes in higher, fantastic. That means you already have money in your pocket. If it comes lower, then Noor needs to negotiate and make sure that we get in, because we don't want any more money coming out of your pocket. The whole plan for us is to make sure you come out of pocket with the least amount of money possible. That's the plan. That's the goal for the lender. That's the goal for the realtor, and that's the goal for the client yourself.
Right.
So,
And we
that's
always ask, when before we put the house under contract, we always ask for closing costs to be covered, at least some of it or half of it. I had a house under contract 515, and I asked for 8,000 closing costs. So that 8,000, Mr. Seller is giving, that number to my buyer to help him out for closing cost, or he can take some portion of that closing cost to buy down the rate, because I understand the rates is a little bit high. So we can buy down the rate so it can be, my buyer will take advantage of that and better for him as far as the monthly payments and everything.
Right.
All
now
right.
to segue. Let's say, Khalas, you're a homeowner now. You've purchased your home. You've lived in it. You've enjoyed in it. But now life has changed. You want to upgrade or downgrade. What are you going to do? You're going to want to sell your home. So, Noor, can you let us know on some things that you would do if you are somebody that's in the midst of owning a home, but they want to buy the next home? Do you have any advice on what they should do?
Yes. So if they want to sell their house, first we have to know what is the reasoning for selling their house? Are they downgrading? Are they upgrading? Do they need money? Do they want to move to a different state? Is it, their job moved to a different city? So we have to know exactly why they're selling. Then we have to see the value of their house, how much their house worth, what upgrades did they put. Do they have a brand new roof, new AC, new flooring? Those upgrades, it plays a big effect when it comes to price value. As Rana said, that when the appraisal come in and appraises the house, they're gonna see the upgrades that you put in. What did you do inside the house or outside the house, around the house, the backyard? Did you put a pool? Did you put a roof, an AC, et cetera, and et cetera? So there's a lot of things that comes in effect. And as I said before, as I mentioned, I check the property website to see if there's any permit that got pulled, as far as, again, the AC, the electrician stuff, anything that happened in the house. Then after pricing the house, then we can put the house in the market for the price that we agreed, myself and the seller. And then we put the house up in the market live. We start doing open houses, showings, and then hopefully we can get a good offer, few offers maybe, and then the seller will sit down and see which offer that best it fits his needs, that we can guarantee that we're going to close. And we can see by the offer which one has a better offer, which one looks stronger offer than the other, as far as down payment, their pre-approval letter, which lending company they use. Are they using banks? Are they using private lending? Are they using mortgage brokers, lenders? So that there's a lot of things that plays a big part. As real estate agent, my part is to educate my seller and my buyer which route they want to go for. So I give them my advice, and they have the chance to see which one they pick, to use their judgment.
That's fantastic.
So
That's
when we
fantastic.
sell their house, we want to make sure we're going to put them into a different house. So are they moving to a different city? So we have to put we have to put contingency upon selling their house. So when we put their house live on the market, right? Let's say we put it today on the market. We have to start searching for their house, for the new house, right? Again, my seller needs to get approval letter from the lender, because we have to sell his house and close on a new house. So after getting his pre-approval letter, we're going to see how much he's getting, the net from his selling his house after paying his current mortgage on his current home. And then taking that money and everything and get it closing into the new house. When we search for a new house, when I put an offer on the new house for my seller, I have to put a contingency. They call it selling. Just correct me, Wasim. It's that contingency is
Contingent to sell. Contingent to sell.
to sell, right? So, Mr. Seller, I'm not buying your house until I close on my house. So the minute I close on my house, I'm gonna close on your house. Let's say, God forbid, something happened to my seller that their buyer couldn't close. I won't be able to close to that house too, when my seller wants to buy. So my seller actually is protected. So let's put it this way: these contingency, it protects the buyer and the sellers. So no one can lose their deposits. No one can lose anything, and we hopefully won't get into into an issue later on down the road. So everyone can be happy. Mr. Seller is happy. My buyer is happy. We'll all be happy. Lender is happy too. So we can have yes, everyone is closed and funded.
Yeah. I want to mention something so quick, because we don't have too much time left, and I don't think I covered this topic. I mentioned earlier that there's a difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval.
Right.
If we have a customer, especially self-employed customers, that they're not sure about the finances, they're not sure if they will be pre-approved. So what we do, we have a we call it pre-approval. They can submit the file like they want to buy a house, but we don't have a property, so there's no address. You can submit the file. It's going to go through a process like any other loan, and it's going to be submitted to the underwriter. And maybe a lot of people, they don't know what's the underwriter. So we have the mortgage loan officer, which is me. We have the processor. So those people, they work behind the scene. They work on the file. The processor does some work for the file, and the underwriter is basically the decision maker. It's like the judge at the court. So I'm the lawyer, and the underwriter is the judge. The underwriter, if we submit the file for a pre-approval, the underwriter will review it, will review your income, your tax returns, and all the documents, and we can issue pre-approval. This is basically commitment that we can pre-approve you, we can lend you for $400,000, for an example, based on those figures. So that will give them peace of mind. So I just want to clarify this before the end of time. So there's a difference between pre-qualification. Pre-qualification, we did not, the underwriter didn't review the loan. There's no commitment. And pre-approval, there's a commitment. We commit to the loan. So there's two different things.
Okay, and also we have different types of loans. We have conventional loans, we have FHA loans, bank statement loans. So every buyer that we have, we technically, the lender, they customize the loan based on their situation.
So what happens usually, we have traditional loans, which is FHA, conventional, USDA, and VA. And we have other loans, we call it portfolio. Portfolio loans, when you hear the word portfolio, that means these are for the lenders. We do not sell them. The traditional loans, I'm just going to give a quick summary about each one of them. Conventional loans is 5% down. This loan, usually we use it for the customers that has high FICO score. They have good income. They have, I'm sorry, not good income. They have assets. They have enough to put down payments and closing costs. FHA is more for customers. They have low FICO score. They don't have too much cash to put down and for closing costs. Minimum down payments for conventional is 5%. FHA 3.5%. Now, the conventional loan as a long term, it's a good loan, and it's a fixed loan for 30 years. The good thing about conventional loan, what I like about it, that if you put 20% down, there's no private mortgage insurance will be added to the loan. What is the private mortgage insurance? Basically, if you put less than 20% down, the lender will add private mortgage insurance in case if the borrower is in default, cannot make the payments. So just to insure the mortgage. Okay. Now, if you put 20% down, or let's say you put the minimum 5%, then after a while you added 20% down, or you have equity, pick up the phone, you speak with the lender, and they will drop it. You don't have to refinance. Now, the FHA loan, there's a private mortgage insurance and there's a premium insurance. You pay ahead 1.75% of the loan amount. And there's 0.55% private mortgage insurance. You pay it monthly. The private mortgage insurance for the FHA is lower monthly, but don't forget you have to pay 1.75% before at closing. And at the long term, FHA, it's costly. You pay more. You cannot drop it after you're paying 20% down or if you have equity. So you have to refinance to get out of the FHA. So it's kind of a little bit costly. So if you planning right now, especially like as I mentioned earlier, most of the people, they're going to refinance because the rate is still high. So you can be FHA, conventional, whatever programs you qualify for, because you know you're gonna refinance. Now I mentioned so quick, we have a VA and USDA loan. These another two government loans. The VA is just for the military borrowers or buyers or active or veterans. They have to be eligible. There's a certificate of eligibility that they have to provide. The good thing about this loan, there's no private mortgage insurance and it's 100% financing. It's awesome. It's perfect. They get the best rates, the best, it's one of the best loans, but it's not for anyone. USDA loan, 100% financing. It's a very good loan, but the borrower has to qualify and the property has to qualify. So the property has to be in the USDA approved area. So this area is like rural area, and you can check online. You can go online and you check USDA properties. You can find out, and the owner or the buyer has to have they have to be like they are for low income borrowers. It's not for anyone, but they're good loans. And other than that, we have portfolio. We have armed products. We call it adjustable rates. They're good. They're not bad. They're the rate sometimes is low for a couple of years, then it will go up or down. It depends on the loan program. I see that the clock.
Yes.
We have 2 minutes.
So there is different types of loans.
Yes.
So again, as I mentioned before, it's different in every situation. So every buyer we can customize their own based on their needs, their wants, and their situation. Now, before we wrap it up, I always get this question all the time. Me and Wasim, when is the best time to buy? Most of the buyers they always say that the interest
I'm going to wait
rate
for the crash.
I'm gonna wait
Interest
for
rates are high.
Yes, I'm going to wait for the interest rate to drop. I always tell them buy now when the interest rate is high.
Yes.
When the interest rate is high, the prices is down,
You can
right?
negotiate better.
Negotiate better.
Demand, supply and demand. It's
Right.
that basic. There's not as many people applying for loans, not as many people buying houses. Puts you in a better situation to negotiate with the seller, and the seller might just settle.
And get closing costs from the seller. Now, when the interest rate is high, so you can buy down the rate, so you can, to help yourself with the closing costs. But when the interest rate is down, the prices is up.
Yeah.
They're not here. Interest
Petition.
is down, prices is high. You don't want to pay more. So if the house is 400, you're not paying 400. You're going to have a lot of competition. A lot of buyers are buying a house 450, 420. They're putting extra money to get this house. Don't do that. Buy it now and refinance later. When the interest rate is high, prices, I don't want to say prices is down, but prices is negotiable. You're not paying 10, 20,000 extra above the asking price. you're not. So don't say, I'll just wait. Guess what? Prices will keep continuing going up.
Mhm.
And buy it now, because a lot of people are moving from different states. Most of my buyers from California, Michigan, Boston, all over. I closed on a house 2 days ago from Michigan, California. I mean, they're all over, and they sell their houses and they come and they buy a house here. So buy now, don't wait for later. شكرا كتير لكم رنا والأخ وسيم، شكرا كتير على حضوركم. بشكر ال ACC Arab American Community Center للبرنامج الحلو علشان نعطي معلومات للمشاهدين. وإذا بدكم أي معلومات اتصلوا ب ACC. وشكرا كتير لكم، وتصبحوا على ألف خير. باي باي.
Bye.